Welcome to the part 2 of the AVE-ATH webinar on using Blender for academic purposes. And in this part, we'll be talking about generating a table of contents graphics. So this graphic should be visually appealing because it will be published on the website of the journal that you're publishing to. So first thing to do is to start a Blender. Again, I will be switching on screencast keys so you can see what I'm doing in the bottom right corner. So we're starting from the default scene again. And the information, the first part of information we need to start is the specification for our table of contents graphics. This we will find on the journal webpage. So for example, ACS, American Chemical Society, recommends, well, not recommends, requests a size of 3.25 by 1.75 inches at 300 pixels per inch. So this works out to our resolution, our desired resolution is in that case 1125 by 525. So now that we have that set, let's set the camera in the correct position like we did before. Selecting the camera, putting it in a 0 on the x-axis. Let's say -20 for the beginning and the y, and 0 on the y, and turning the rotation to 90, 0, 0. So the camera is now facing the object in the correct place. Okay, cool. We can now remove this light because we will be making a different lighting setup right now. And we can also remove the default hue. Okay, so in contrast to the first part of the tutorial where we were importing PDB files and XYZ files, here we will be making our own objects. To make an object in Blender, you can press either Shift-A and then go add mesh, cube, circle, UV sphere, whatever you like to do. Or you can just go here, add mesh. Okay, so what we would like to do is some type of electrochemical cell. And that usually means that you have a glass beaker with some electrodes inside with a lid. So let's try to make that real fast. I will pop into the front view. I will select the camera and press H. That means that the camera is hidden. If I want to show the camera again, I can press Alt H. But you can notice also here that there is this eye next to the camera entry in the scene collection. You can just press it and it will hide it or unhide it. Okay, so let's say we want to build a beaker for beginners. So let's say Shift A and add a shape that looks like a beaker. So a cylinder is the default go-to shape. Okay, so far we are here in object mode. When we select the beaker, we can press Tab, and that will shift us to edit mode. And as you can see, now you can select these pieces of geometry in the beaker. And in this case, we can just select a particular vertex. We can also go into click this button here that will take us to the edge select tool. Now we can select individual edges, or we can go to face select tool, in which we can select individual faces. All of the controls that are working in object mode, so G to move around, R to rotate, also work in edit mode. So we will be using these controls to manipulate the object. In addition to these rotate, move tools, we can also use different tools which are inset. So that is I to inset, or we can use E to extrude, or we can use Control B to bevel. You can also find those controls here on the left side, but as I said, it's quite convenient when using Blender to use the keyboard shortcuts. So let's go into front view. Select all of the faces by pressing A. Press G and 1. Sorry. You just say G, set 1. And now the origin of our object is exactly at 0, 0. And all of its elements are above it. That will be useful later. You'll see when we start to scale the object. Okay, so we need to take off this lid from the cylinder. So let's just select the top face and press X to dissolve faces, or no. So delete faces. So we delete this face, and now we need to add a little bit of geometry to the beaker so it looks more realistic. So let's inset. Let's first inset this part here. Let's do another inset here to add a bit of geometry. Adding a little bit of geometry is always good for in general 3D rendering programs, because they have a way of shading surfaces or assuming flatness or roundness or curviness of a surface based on the underlying geometry. So let's add a loop cut. We can add a loop cut by pressing R. We click, we drop it where we want to leave it. Let's put another one. By scrolling, you can select the number of loop cuts. I will add them one by one so I have better control. Let's put another one here. Now let's for example go into face select. You can, by the way, cycle through this by pressing this selection options by pressing 1, 2, or 3 to go from vertex, edge, and face select. So if you go to face select, you can Alt or Shift and click to select multiple. A nice way to select multiple faces is, for example, to go to perfect front view and then change the shading of the viewport. So this window here, to change it from solid to wireframe. Now you can select through the object basically. Okay, let's go back to solid. Now we have this thing selected. Let's say E to extrude, or sorry, E to extrude, and then scale to make this lip that that our beaker should have. Okay, cool. Let's call that good. Let's go into a vertex select, and then let's select this edge loop. So I was holding Shift Alt and clicking on an edge to select the edge loop. So that is like a continuous line of edges that your geometry is following. So now we can say extrude scale to add a little bit of thickness, because our glass needs to have an inner and outer surface. So now we can do, let's say like this. Let's change to wireframe. And now let's say extrude set. We can do another extrude set. And let's go to somewhere here. And now we can look at it here and say extrude scale, another extrude scale. Let me switch to solid so you can see what's going on. Another extrude scale. You see we're closing up the surface. And then we can reach the point, extrude scale again. And now we can cap off this surface here by pressing F. So now we have a nice clean surface, but it looks quite not very smooth. To try to make this thing look smoother, we can go into this modifier properties and add a subdivision surface. So this modifier is basically what it is doing. It is subdividing all of the geometry that we have. So it is subdividing every face into several faces. So if this number of subdivision is 4, then it will subdivide each face 4 times. Okay, so as you can see, there are some averaging effects that are going on here, and that kind of breaks the shape that breaks up this sharp shape that we modeled. And if we want to perhaps sharpen up some lines, the way we can do that is to, again, tab into edit mode, and then just add geometry where we want the sharp line to be. Let me just zoom in. For example, if you take a look at this lip, you can just go Control R to add a loop cut, and then pull down this edge here. If you want to sharpen up this bottom part here, you just go Control R here, and then just add a loop cut. We can add another loop cut here, and another loop cut here, and that in principle should be fine. Maybe we should add a couple of loop cuts also on the inside surface. So let's just go Control R. Let's add this edge here, sharpen up this edge here, and let's add one more here. And let's call that pretty good. Okay, so now maybe we can address a little bit the aspect ratio of this cup, of this beaker. To do that, we can just select, for example, the top part, press G to grab or to move, and just move it a little bit up. Cool. Now we have a beaker. Let's call this cylinder beaker. The next thing, okay, now we can see here that we have this imperfection, which is, I suppose, quite common in glass objects, but let's tighten up this edge a little bit. So we want to add a loop cut here on the inside so that it's tightening up this edge here, the inner edge of the glass. So let's just say Control R, and let's put the loop cut here. And now you can see G set. Okay, I put it on the wrong surface. So so far it was on the outside surface. But let's go to solid, and let's put one, Control R, and let's put one here. Let's put it like this. Go back to wireframe, and then just slide this edge to tighten up this curve. Nice. Okay, let's go to face select. Let's just maybe take this inner pocket, because you know how the glasses tend to have like a little bit hollow bottom. You can take, for example, this face, which is on the bottom of our beaker, and we can just, for example, use proportional editing. So let's try to use this one, and let's say do G to grab, set, and let's just scroll down, and then let's move it just a little bit, and there. Now we have a nice looking object. We can do the same thing for the top surface. Let's take a look through the wireframe. Oh, okay, it already moved because it's you see what happened here. Okay, cool. We're finished with the beaker. Let's hide the beaker by pressing H, or let's unhide the beaker. Let's duplicate the beaker. Shift D, press Enter, and then hide the first beaker. And let's call this beaker cap. So we have a cap. Let's remove the subdivision surface modifier. Okay, I just misclicked. And let's remove all of the things that we don't need for this cap. Let's call that. So let's say remove edges. We don't want this. Let's go and remove a little bit of vertices as well. X, we don't want this. So we just want something that fits into our cap. Let's go back to face select. Now we can do this. We can do solid. Let's also select this edge loop. Oops. Actually, let's try to do something else. Let's try to do this. So I just want to select the outside of the object. So let's try to do this. If you So now we were in the perfect front view. To reverse the view, we can press 9. Since our object is non-transparent, now we can do the following. We can just box select by pressing Shift, drop it, and say X, and say vertices. And basically what we got is the negative shape of our top of our beaker. So this will fit perfectly into the beaker. Maybe what we can do is scale it just a little bit. So let's just press S, switching off proportional editing, and press S 0.99. So that will be a little bit smaller. And now we need to add some thickness to this cap. To do that, let's basically do the same thing that we did before. So select the edge loop, extrude set, this, extrude set, something like this. Let's put a loop cut here. Let's select the edge loop here. Let's say extrude scale, and then extrude scale again. I'm being repetitive, sorry about it. Extrude scale, and cap it up with the F. Exactly the same thing on the bottom. Select the edge loop, just this edge loop, extrude scale, extrude scale, extrude scale, again extrude scale, and F, and we should be good. Okay, and now we have our negative object. Let's now switch on the subdivision surface again, see how it looks. Okay, let's put another edge loop here to tighten up, and let's call that perfect. Okay, let's increase the number of subdivisions, and now we can maybe unhide the beaker and see how they fit together. They fit perfectly like a glove. Nice. Now we have our electrochemical system set up. We just need to add a couple of more objects, and those objects are electrodes. We will put on 2 electrodes because we don't need a, I don't know, reference electrode in this case. It is just for the aesthetics. Shift A. So let's add a mesh cylinder again. Go Tab, grab Z. Grab Z. I switched the language of my keyboard to a non-QWERTY one. Okay, now let's go grab Z. Nice. So, okay. Again, I made sure that the origin of one electrode is exactly at 0, 0, 0. It's just the OCD thing. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we're still in edit mode. So now we can scale the thing to a thickness that we like. Or for example, if you want to scale in all of the direction except Z, you can press scale Shift Z to make some cylindrical object like this. Let's call that good. Okay. And so typically the body of an electrode will be this this cylindrical plastic or some type of isolator object. And then we will add a little bit of geometry because they typically have some handle and some place where the cable goes in and out of. So okay, let's do that. Let's go into face select, select the top face, and then let's extrude set. And now this is maybe a cool thing to do. Add the edge loop here. Add the edge loop here. And then go into free to face select, and then just do this, and say scale, Shift set to add this thickening of the electrode, something like that. And now we can inset all of the faces by pressing I. As you can see, something weird is going on. Let's press I again to inset all of the faces separately. Now even weirder stuff is going on, but okay, now we are here where we want to be. And then like let's try to do extrude and scale. Shift set. And now we're adding a little bit of geometry for our electrode. Let's go into wireframe so we can select all of the faces. Let's go into face select. Let's select all of these edges. And let's go zoom in a little bit so we can see what we're doing. And let's press Control B to add a bevel. Let's go into solid shading so we can better see what we're doing. So again, this selection is good. Let's just press Control B and just pull it down a tiny little bit so that the edges are less harsh. Let's see how it looks with a subdivision surface modifier. Probably not great, but let's just out of curiosity. It looks completely bad. Okay, we will manage without the subdivision surface. The details are so small that it doesn't really matter. Okay, let's go back to edit mode, and let's finish up with this electrode. Let's inset this shape here, this face here, extrude it with set, inset again, and extrude it with set, and let's make a hole here. There's a typical hole where the cable goes into. Okay, let's call that the first electrode body. First electrode body done, so we can call it electrode body. I didn't mean to shout. Electrode body, or let's say electrode body 1. And so we want to add a couple of more elements to this electrode. One can be this cylindrical wire basically hanging out of the bottom of the electrode, because that is actually where what is the electrode material. So let's make that a separate object in this case. So let's just go again, Shift A, mesh cylinder. Again, tab into edit mode. Grab Z1, and then scale Shift Z. Make it nice and thin. Maybe even thinner. Scale Shift Z. Something like that. So that should be fine. So that is electrode matte. Let's call that 1. Let's call it. Let's add a little bit of, or maybe not necessary. Let's add a little bit of. Let's add a bevel to the bottom of the electrode body. So let's just select this edge loop here, and say Control B to add bevel, and let's do something like this to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, cool. Another thing that we can do is to add some type of a wire going out of this electrode. The way that we can do that is to do a Shift A, curve, Bezier curve. Let's see where it is. It's been added here. You see it's curvy, very curvy. And let's do the following. Let's tab into edit mode to edit the Bezier curve. Let's take a look what we're doing. And let's do GX1, for example. Now we can go into the perfect top view. Let's rotate the Bezier curve RX90, for example. And now we can do this. G set. And now you can see the Bezier curve is going out of our electrode. Let's call the Bezier curve electrode wire. Wire 1. And let's add some thickness to this Bezier curve so that it looks like a wire. Now the way that we need to do that is the following. Okay, we need to add a bevel to the Bezier curve. So if you add just a tiny little bevel here, you can of course increase the resolution. That will add segments, and you will get a less choppy wire. So there we go. We have our electrode. We have a wire sticking out of it. If you want to edit this Bezier curve, we can just say E to extrude and like push the wire in any direction we like. Let's call that good for now. And now let's make another electrode, which would be the not the working electrode, but this high surface electrode. But to do that, we can well, first let's join these objects. So electrode body, electrode material, and electrode wire to a collection. To do that, we press M, and we say new collection, and let's call it electrode 1. Okay, good. Now we have this collection here. We can hide all together, or show it all together. That's very convenient. One thing that we can do now is to say, because we want to make another electrode, but it should be based on this one. It should be similar. So let's use the electrode 1 as a starting place. So let's say electrode 1, right click, duplicate collection. So now we can hide electrode 1, and now we can call electrode 1 001, and we can call that electrodes 2. And now we have all of this objects. So that is a electrode body 2. This is electrode mat 2, and electrode wire 2. Okay, let's first fix up this body first. So again, we go into edit mode. We go into Z to have a wireframe view. Select, for example, this part. Let's scale a shift set. Scale a shift set. Make a little taker, scale it with set, maybe a little bit again. So does this look good? Not too bad. The geometry is not perfect, but it looks fine. Then let's go into wireframe view. Let's maybe grab this one to move a little bit down. Maybe we can even do this. Maybe add a little bit of geometry here. Why not? Control R to do it here. Control R again, maybe to add another one here. And then we can do free to say loop select. And then we can scale this with Shift Z. Just add a little bit of interesting details. Z, that, let's see. Okay, this is now quite different than the first one. So let's unhide this, or let's okay, so the electrode looks a little bit different than the first one. What we can do is, for example, make this a little bit lower, and then we can completely change the electrode material here. For example, now the electrode material 1 was a cylinder. We would like to make our electrode 2 material a little bit flatter. So we can go select material 2, tab into edit mode, select everything by pressing, oops, what am I doing now? Aha, okay. So select electrode material 2, tab into edit mode, press A to select everything, and X to delete the vertices. So now, as you can see, this object still exists, but it's not necessarily being shown. So again, we have selected electrode material 2. We're going into edit mode, so tabbing into edit mode, and now we can do Shift A to add, let's say, a cube. Grab Z1, and then take that and scale it on Z, something like this. Scale Shift Z again. There we go. So that the circle fits the bottom of this electrode body. So once we have this, let's scale it again with scale it with Y to make it a little thinner, so it looks more like something like a wire or like a plate, a little plate. And let's make it there. It's not necessary there is this that is this long. So let's just grab the top face and grab it by its set. And move it somewhere here. Okay. So let's again select everything and maybe add a little bevel. So let's call Control B. Let's add a little bevel so the edges of this electrode material catch the light a little bit nice. One thing that you can do with the bevel is to add a number of segments, then it looks rounder. You can see here. Cool. Well, okay, now we have, and maybe what also we can change a little bit this wire. So electrode wire 2, let's go tab into edit mode, let's grab this thing and move it somewhere else. Okay, we have the electrodes, we have the beaker, we have pretty much everything we need to arrange our scene. So we have the cap, we have the beaker, we have the camera. So let's go to camera view and maybe adjust our camera to fit the scene better. So let's do G set. It is always good that the camera is orthogonal with the surface, so that you don't have artifacts due to the lens distortion. So let's do GX to move it maybe here. And now let's move apart the electrodes a little bit. So let's go select electrode 1, select objects, grab X a little bit. Let's go to electrode 2, select objects, grab X, move it again a little bit. Let's inspect how does this look. Okay, it looks like this electrode is way too deep. Okay, so let's move both this one and the other one a little bit up. So let's start by electrode 1. Select objects and select objects, and let's say G it's set 1, too much. G set 0.2, perfection. So let's do the same with electrode 2. Again, select objects, G set 0.2. So now the electrodes are in the correct height. I will just adjust a little bit this Bezier curve. So tab in, and I can just do grab, and then just put it something like this. There we go. Let's call that good. Okay, so we have 2 electrodes, we have the beaker, we have everything that we need. Now we just need to make it look cool. Let's add a background. So I tab into object mode, add mesh, let's add a plane. Let's scale this plane up, something quite large. Let's move it a little bit with the X. Scale it a little bit more. Now let's tab into edit mode, and let's extrude just this back face. Now we have a background where our table of contents graphics will be happening. Let's adjust the camera a little bit more. We can maybe zoom in by changing the focal length of the camera. So like we select the camera tab here, and let's put that to, let's say 120. Now we have to change the position of the camera. So we need to move it back with set, with Y and Z a little bit. So something like this. Okay, now it's time to play with the materials. To play with the materials and lights. But first, yes, first we need to adjust a little bit the lights. But first we need to add a light. The same way you add a background, this background, any of the object is the same way you add light. So Shift A, light, and let's use an area light. Now, let's just grab it with Z. Let's make it quite large. Let's put it here, and let's maybe center it somewhere here, and let's scale it. So we get nice soft light from our area light. And maybe we can rotate it slightly versus the camera, and let's grab it by Y and put it somewhere here. Okay, now let's see how this looks like if it's rendered. I will press Control B, just circle this area here. And now let's change the shading mode. So we were using solid or wireframe, and now we can use rendered. So let's just press render. Now let's see how this thing looks like. Oh, of course. Let's go back to solid. We need to put the render engine to cycles, because that one is the one which always looks nice. Let's go to the render view. Okay, we can see something is going on, but it's still very faint. The reason for this is that our light, which is somehow ended up, okay, the light, the area light ended up in electrodes 2 collection. We can just drag it and drop it to the main collection. So now we have light. Let's call that light top. Let it be. It can be caps lock on, why not? So now we can go to the light tab here and add a little bit more power to this light. And now we have a nice filler light here. Okay, let's take a look at how this is looking. Let's move it a little bit more to the front. So this will kind of be like our general ambient lighting and the main light. But let's add a little bit 2 more lights on each side of our scene. But let's push them a little bit back. So let's do Shift D, Y here. Let's reset the rotation of the light to 0. Let's rotate it with Y by 90. Let's move it. Oops, Alt H, G, and let's move it off to the side. So it's somewhere here in the background. And let's just duplicate that one again with X and rotate Z to 180. And now let's see how this thing looks like. Okay, so now this light, this one is light right, light left. Now we can change the color of these lights so we see how they look like. So the light left, let's put that to red. Now let's say light to right, let's put that to blue just for the beginning. There, so now we have this interesting thing going on in the background. Okay, let's make some glass. First of all, actually, I will edit a little bit the geometry of this beaker. Let's just move the lip down. It will look better. So let's go to wireframe move, wireframe view, and let's just go G set just a little bit down, something like this. And now let's go into the lid part and again do the same. So tab into edit mode and then just select this bottom part and move it. That's something like that. I think that will look better in the final render. Nice. Okay, cool. So let's make some glass. So we select the beaker, which is intended to be the glass object. Let's change this timeline editor here to a shader editor. So we do the shader editor and we make a new material, and new material is called glass. I will need to switch off the caps lock. Okay. And let's switch to rendered view so we can see what is going on. Let's also put the render resolution to a very modest 20%, which will be a little bit easier on my notebook CPU, which we're using for rendering now. Okay, to make glass, super simple. You just put the transmission to 100%, and you put the roughness to a very low 0. And I believe that is it. Maybe we need to change this shading to smooth. And once we do this, we have something that resembles glass quite well. Clear code roughness, let's put that also to 0. So we have our glass material already done. Now let's take a look at the other materials. Let's start with the lid. So the lid should be some type of dielectric material. So we keep the metallic slider. It's called the material lid. So the metallic is at 0. The roughness can be, I don't know, maybe some 0.2. The base color can be like a dirty white, something like that, for example. Let's continue by adding a material to one of the electrodes. Again, let's call that plastic 1. Let's put it to some type of a dark material, because why not? Again, dielectric, we don't need to touch anything other than the roughness, and the base color, and it will look completely fine. Let's have the other electrode. Let's call that plastic 2. Tuck. Base color. Let's put this one in some type of gray, like yellowish gray or reddish gray. Why not? Cool. Okay, we have the materials for the electrodes. Let's make the materials for the cables. Let's put one red, base color red. Let's put the other cable black. There we go. Now let's just say the wire material 1. Let's make that. Well, let's first rotate it a little bit. Let's set something like this, so it can catch the light better. And I'll say new material, elec mat. This is the 2. So let's make that one metallic, and the roughness we can put at 0.3, for example. Maybe it can even be white. It will reflect more. Let's do the same for electrode 1. Electrode material 1, new material, elec mat 1. Let's put that one to be something copper-ish. So orange color, and let's reduce a little bit the roughness, and metallic to 1. It's a little bit difficult to see what is going on. Let's try to do it like this. So unfortunately, the screen recording and rendering at the same time is not something that my computer is super happy with, but it has to survive. So as you can see, we can rotate a little bit this electrode to make it look more interesting. Something like that. Okay, we have pretty much all of the materials for the things that we already put in the scene. So let's Alt-H our beaker. And let's say that we want to make an inset here, which is showing something happening on this electrode reaction here. And let's call that, since the electrode is made of copper, and this is an electrochemical cell, let's say that what is happening is CO2 reduction to methanol on copper nanoparticles. Very conveniently, I already have the files, which you can import using the steps that are shown in the video. You will find it in the description on how to do this in more detail. But if you have the Atomic Blender add-on enabled, you just need to go File, Import, PDB. You get this window. You say 60 sectors because I tested it out and that looks nice. You say 0.1. You say bonds, you say 1.8. And you put the scaling of the balls to 0.7. Then you navigate to your PDB file, which is in my case right here. So we get a CO2 molecule, grab, let's move it here, rotate Z, rotate X. So we show off our nice double bonds. Let's scale it down a little bit. Something like this. Maybe rotate a little bit here. Let's do the same. Oops, let's go file, import again, PDB. The second molecule we want to, so our product will be methanol. So let's do methanol, grab it, scale it again. Somehow, so they're at least a similar scale when looking at the oxygen atom. That's pretty good. Let's grab it and move it here. And let's put a nanoparticle somewhere here. So let's go file, again, import, in this case, XYZ, because that is the format of the nanoparticle I have. So let's go to desktop, should be here. There, small gold nanoparticle, which we will call copper, because yes, they're the same. They're the same lattice. And now let's rotate it a little bit to put it in position. Let's do this. I think that will look quite nice. Okay, and then we will be able to draw an arrow going from the CO over the nanoparticle to the ethylene, to the ethanol molecule. Okay, let's maybe adjust a little bit our scene. So the gold nanoparticle can maybe go a little bit to the right, and then also the methanol can go a little bit to the right. So the best way to select this collection is by right-clicking here, going select objects, and then grab that, and just shifting it a little bit. Maybe the CO2 can go a little bit up as well. So select objects, grab that a little bit up. Nice. Okay. This should now look fine. Let's maybe adjust just the materials for this CO2 and methanol. So let's go into CO2, go to oxygen mesh, oxygen ball, and so we can call this material, rename this material to O and say use nodes, and put it to some type of red. Maybe we reduce the, oops, not orange, red. And maybe we can reduce the roughness to 0.2, so it's more punchy. Let's do the same for the carbon. So carbon mesh, carbon ball, use nodes, maybe a little bit darker. Again, roughness 0.2. So something like that, let's say. And let's just assign these materials. Let's call this material C carbon, rename it to C carbon. Okay, so we're done with CO2. Let's do the same for methanol. So carbon, we need to assign, just select carbon ball and take this C carbon material that we just made. You see it's already applied. The problem is that it will not apply it automatically also to the stick of the carbon here. So you have to go into, again, methanol, carbon, and you have here carbon ball, but you also have carbon sticks. So carbon sticks mesh, and I have sticks cylinder. And then you go and press the C. And now you solve this problem. So we repeated the same thing for oxygen. Oxygen ball, put it to O. And then oxygen sticks cylinder, put it to O. There you go. And then let's just hydrogen mesh, hydrogen ball. Let's just press here, use nodes. It improves the way that the material interacts with light if you use this principled shader for the surface material. Okay. As far as the nanoparticle is concerned, we already have the material that we wanted to use is copper. So electrode material 1, let's use that. Maybe it's a little bit too orange, so let's reduce the saturation a little bit. Maybe also the value a little bit. And now we have something very coppery looking. So to do this, now we can, so basically now we're done with our table of contents graphics. Then we can, using some other program, we can just draw a box around this part of the image and make another box here and then like present it as an inset. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. You will see the rendered image as the thumbnail of this video. So after I did these steps. So I hope that this will be useful in some point in the future for people watching, and good luck with your science. All the best. Bye bye.